And we're live. We are joined today with Karen. Are you there, Karen?
I am here.
Right, and you're coming through loud and clear. This appears to be good. I have an interesting way of topic conversations to run through with you today. Not really sure how we're going to start this, but I guess we should just jump straight on in. How's your day been, Karen? Have you been busy?
I have been busy. It's been great, though. The weather's nice.
Okay, so we've got loads of stuff to get through today, so we may as well make a quick start and get straight on into it. I guess there's about 10 different things that we need to talk about today. I am broadcasting to you from the UK, and Karen, you are somewhere in the United States.
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina.
And I'm between Liverpool and Manchester in England. So this is the first live stream of FECORE, and every third Sunday in the month, we'll be doing a live stream, and there'll be different things on it each time, obviously, but this first one is more going to be descriptive, less interactivity. It's just mainly to test the system. But the key point to know is that this is every third Sunday of the month. So if you remember it's every third Sunday, you'll always remember. Lots to talk about. So we've got a new up-and-coming laser video, Karen. Do you remember what the scenario is with the up-and-coming laser video?
Well, yes, it's basically going to be a documentary of the laser measurements that have been done by FECORE over Lake Balaton and also Lake Isel in the Netherlands.
So Lake Balaton was in Hungary, and the experiment was done over in very cold conditions, and it was done to see whether or not the surface of water that was frozen, whether or not it followed a convex shape. And that video is due out how long?
In about a month.
And it'll be uploaded to the FECORE website. So basically, it's to let you guys know that the video will be up within the month, and it'll show all the results, and it'll show basically what should be expected if the surface of standing water should convex compared to what it actually did. And the results are all pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing it because I've heard so much about it, but I've not actually seen it. So I'll be looking forward to that in the next month. So keep an eye on the website for that one. We've got 6 new up-and-coming projects in the next 12 months. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the letter, the amount of information here is quite a lot. Let's start with something called SALAD. SALAD is a super accurate it's an acronym for super accurate laser aiming device. And basically, it's a posh laser. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. It's in a frame, and basically you lay it flat on the floor, you level it, and then it uses GPS, and it gives you an extremely precise location of somewhere that you can't see to aim. So we know that if you're going to be aiming into the abyss and you can't see what you're aiming at, we know that you're going to struggle finding your laser. But we also know that if you have a tool that was specifically designed to find you when you can't be seen with a line of sight, then that gives you something specific to use to aim at, and then have a much increased probability of being able to successfully find your laser. So SALAD is a new laser that is going to be, it's going to be appearing on the website soon after a period of testing. And the whole point of it really is to make it so that it's repeatable, that we can use machine cut parts so that we can basically put these across the world without having to ship them continuously. And it's a case of you can flat pack it up, make it into a working device. And it's convenient enough that it'll collapse, go into your garage, store it underneath your car in the garage. It'll just allow you to have something precise for doing specific tasks without having to ship it across the world. It's extremely convenient, quick, flat packable. And that's the real interesting part of this particular piece of equipment. And that's going to be, due to be completed and finalized and appearing on the website imminently. So make sure you do check out the website to be up to date with regards to the SALAD version 2. It's going to be on the website imminently. Our second point of information for today is long distance microwave transmission update. Now, long distance microwave transmissions require a line of sight. So imagine that you've got a sender and a receiver over a body of water, a large body of water. what we're trying to achieve is what's the longest distance that we can successfully get a microwave link between 2 points. Now, if you find a big stretch of water, say between Holland and England, that's a significant distance. And what we're trying to achieve is that we can get a successful microwave link across the sea, the North Sea, to successfully connect Holland to England via microwave. Now, obviously, you need a line of sight. That's the most important thing. So if you've got a line of sight, even though you can't see where you're aiming at, if you happen to have a particular salad laser that would be able to specifically put you in the right place when you're lining these things up, for example, you would then be able to try and establish a microwave connection. And you just need 2 tall buildings because of the way that the beam pattern works. So what we're trying to do is get a successful contact between 2 microwave receivers on both sides of the North Sea over a distance of around 150 kilometers or so. I think it is. I'm not exactly sure on the exact distance, but the point is that we're going to try and do a successful microwave connection from between the two countries, and that will be pushing the boundaries as far as the line of sight would be concerned, because microwave transmissions all travel in straight lines. They don't follow a curved path. So we're trying to establish a successful microwave link from between the 2 countries. Karen, what have you heard about this? What do you know about it from the inside?
I just know that basically everything that you said, pretty much the same stuff. We're still looking for a location, our secondary location. I think it may or may not have been found yet, but once we find that location, we'll be able to plan a specific date for that.
Okay, so Didi Vanna, or Van, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce the surname, but Didi's trying to orchestrate this on the Netherlands side, and it's due to be sorted in the next few months, because we've got to get all these experiments that we're going to be talking about next in the next 10 minutes or so. These are all going to be done in the next 12 months. They're all going to be peer reviewed, put into the peer review process, published in journals specifically to let people know what we're doing, what we did, how we did it, and make it like public knowledge so that we're all aware of it, because this is what the ultimate goal is, to get them published. So we're hoping that a successful connection between 2 significant cities over the North Sea is going to be significant enough in the science world so that peer review papers create a bit of awareness, and the idea is to generate discussion. So that will be the second thing. Our third point that we're going to discuss quickly is the Aries failure. Now, George Biddle Airy was the astronomer royal whilst he was alive. Quite a prestigious role, and well, it's the most prestigious role within astronomy. And the guy was no clown. However, he did a well-known failure experiment in that he failed to detect a particular thing he was testing for, and he never found it. And the idea was that it was a failure because he failed to detect something that he was testing to see if it was moving. And it's often misquoted, and it's often misexplained by people because it's complicated in terms of how easy it is to misrepresent. But the gist of it is, we see the stars rotate above our head, and the question is, do we know that the stars are moving, or do we know that we're moving, or is it a combination of both? And George Biddle Airy was the guy that realized that he did the maths to calculate if you moved a telescope at a particular angle at a particular speed, you would be able to determine which was moving. Was it the sky moving? Was it us moving? Or did he get his maths wrong, and it could be a relative state where we're both moving? So this is going to be sorted by August, I believe. And Robert Scott's got an article to go onto the FECORE website in the next few months. I believe that's going to be there. So make sure you check on the website for that, because there should be something as we lead up to that. But the key point to be aware is that Aries failure, the infamous or the famous Aries failure experiment, will be getting repeated in the next 12 months. And we all know what the prediction should be based on what happened in the experiment that he did. So we're going to be looking forward to that one, because that's really interesting in terms of repetition of previous known science. Hopefully we can add to that, and we can validate and repeat that experiment to the point where we are able to conclude successfully what the position should now be in science. And that's one of the most important topics of debate. Is it the sky or is it us that's moving when we observe the stars rotating around rotation points? Anything to add, Karen, on that?
No, sir.
This is a delay transatlantic. It's a little bit of a delay.
Sorry, I'm trying to keep myself muted so I don't have background noise.
It's okay. Okay, so we have another experiment. This will be the fourth one, which is called a multi-stage balloon project. Now, the multi-stage balloon project is interesting. The idea is that we're trying to get a high altitude balloon up there with infrared and a few other bits and pieces to make it interesting. But it's to do with the design of the balloon. And it's instead of having one balloon, the idea is that we're going to put 4 balloons up on one construct. And the idea is to get the balloon up to the altitude to a certain point. And then technology takes over and things happen. And it's complicated. I'm not entirely sure of the designs. I've seen little bits and pieces, but this is a balloon test like no other. We've not done one. Nobody's done a balloon test like this. And the objectives that we're trying to get from it is what will happen in certain circumstances. And it's going to be really interesting because we've all seen those flat horizons, level horizons, literally level of the picture, level of the center of the frame, level. That's what we're going to be looking to see if we can replicate, and to what extent can we push the parameters of technology with regards to the payload and the balloon design to see if we can increase the quality of feedback we get from a multi-stage balloon project. It's still in the design stage at the moment, but this is going to be probably one of the most interesting topics or one of the most interesting projects of the year because of its uniqueness. So if you imagine 4 balloons wrapped up in one big floating device with technology attached to it, that's kind of make things more interesting in terms of the high altitude balloon footage, because it's just going to be the application of technology with a bigger payload, and hopefully with a bit of luck we should have some really interesting results back from that we can use to see a little bit more about the state of our world. Okay, so we have another experiment that's lined up in the next 12 months called Force the Level. Now, Karen, Force the Level, are you still with me? Force the Level?
I am.
We've done some initial first measurements. Is that right?
They did do a test run of the Force the Level measurement. Not really an experiment, but it's a land measurement, similar to what would have been Force the Line, but this one can be achieved without actually having to build a physical structure.
So the idea is that we're going to build a perfectly level or perfectly flat, straight, not beveled, not convex, level, literally a level construct of some kind, and then see what happens in certain circumstances. It's there's a test that's scheduled for March the 9th and March the 10th this year. And what we're trying to do is basically test to see what happens in certain, well, basically force the level line, literally force it's really difficult to explain without pictures, but maybe you could do it better than I can, Karen, but literally put a level line and then see what happens with the contour. Is that badly mashed up, or could you do better?
Well, I guess that's a good way to explain it. It's sort of using surveying equipment to measure, how level the land is from one piece to another, and it's sort of leapfrogging from one measurement to the next to go over a long distance.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe. Imagine having a guy with a camera on a tripod. That will be a structure that you then from there you force level, and then you go to another place and then force level, then you go to another place and force level. And if it was level continuously at the set height over that distance, the camera would have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. As the gap between the camera and the ground would have to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If it was level, that's the way it should work. But that's the test to see what actually happens with it. So that will be the 4th, I think it is. I'm up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 5th one that's planned for the next 12 months. Now, obviously, all of these experiments or observations or tests will all be written up and submitted for review. But essentially what we're trying to do is test stuff to see what happens in certain circumstances on all of these and write them up and submit them for peer review, because that's the overall goal. And there's no point in just doing the experiments if we just do them and keep the internal results or publish them on YouTube or whatever. They've got to be published for peer review, and that's the biggest important thing from my perspective. So that's that one. And I think we're on 7 now. Let's see if we're on 7. Where are we now? I've lost where I was up to on my page. First level. All right, mechanical gyro. This is designed and constructed in-house. Basically, it's a big slab of metal that's been machined on a CNC machine, designed and made by ourselves. And it's a big gyroscope. And obviously, this was started by a particular member who really wanted to play around with gyroscopes. Stefan Pois, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce his surname. And the idea is to test whether or not we can detect the rotation of the Earth. It moves at 15 degrees per hour. And a lot of people claim that that's a really slow speed, that you can't actually detect it. But we've done tests already within the YouTube community that established that a normal mechanical gyroscope that's not even a precise precision one, although it was designed to be, will actually detect 15 degrees an hour of inertia or rotation. And the idea behind this one is to test it in different areas. So we could like test it on different angles, different axes, and basically see if we can detect any 15 degrees an hour of Earth's rotation. Because of course we're rotating all of the time, but we're told that it's too slow for us to detect. But 15 degrees an hour isn't too slow to detect. And if you have a bigger gyro that spins slower, it should spin for longer without any interaction with it. And the idea again is to try and test specifically whether or not we can detect the rotation of the Earth using some specific bespoke, in-house designed, built gyroscopes. And obviously we're testing it. Again, this is really exciting because we're all familiar with the arguments that go back and forth with regards to gyroscopes and what they do and don't do, what they should and shouldn't be. They're often described as toys. There's nothing toy about the physics behind this so-called toy. So even if it is a toy, the idea is that we can prove that it's sensitive enough to determine or prove, or it's sensitive enough to demonstrate 15 degrees an hour. But we're on an Earth that's supposed to be spinning at 15 degrees an hour. So obviously that's what we're trying to prove is or is not the case. And obviously with it all being in-house and designed and manufactured and implemented by a member of FECORE himself, there's obviously quite a lot of self-pride in that particular experiment or test, if you will. I know we were speaking in the last 24 hours, myself and Mike Kavanagh, and we were talking about the reality and the ease of replication for the Cavendish experiment. Obviously, the claimed balls, weights on a torsion bar suspended from a ceiling, and then put bigger weights next to them and see whether or not there's a force of attraction between mass. And it's one of the things that's been overlooked and it's not been documented properly because it's literally hot off the press. But the idea is that we should absolutely, in the next 12 months, we should absolutely recreate the Cavendish experiment to see whether or not mass attracts mass. Because we see people claiming that it does, and we see people with failed experiments. And the answer is, well, we need to test this because some people say it does repeat up and you can get it. Other people say that it doesn't. And I'll be honest, I don't know whether it actually does or not. But what I do know is that we were talking literally about it the other day, yesterday, I believe. And we should be doing the Cavendish experiment. It should be on the list of things to do. It's not been completely formalized, finalized, and set in concrete yet, but it's absolutely something that we should be doing because it forms a big part of the science for, well, gravity. Karen, were you even aware that that was something that we were doing?
As far as repeating the Cavendish experiment, no, I was not aware of that actually.
It only came up yesterday in conversation. It's very much at loose stages at the moment in terms of like, it's not even confirmed that we are doing it. But I mean, it's such an easy experiment that in theory, we should definitely try it. because it might go down as a failure. We know what is supposed to happen, but we obviously realise that there are issues with regards to whether it actually does happen or not. So hopefully we should get a Cavendish experiment as well, but it may be too much to do in 1 year. But it is definitely something that we're talking about now. That, as far as I can see, that deals with all of the outstanding experiments or tests or observations that's being done in the next 12 months. Have I missed anything off, Karen? Can you think?
I don't think so.
I think I've mentioned everything there. 6 upcoming projects. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plus 1 making 7 that is possible in the pipeline. So I've got all the 6 upcoming projects plus a potential 7th that's not confirmed yet, but hopefully it will. Okay, so there's the next item of business would be there's an inbound publication for preliminary tests from Forster level. This is coming imminently, I believe. There's a publication coming imminently in the next week or so. Karen, is that right? I think so. There is an inbound publication for the preliminary test results for Forster level.
Oh, okay, yes.
I don't remember what the time period is. I believe it's in the next week, and that will be released on the website. However, keep your eyes open on the website anyway, because it's coming up. If it's not the next week, it'll be in the next month, but it's coming in imminently. So keep your eye on the website for that one. We also have all of the projects that we were just talking about are going to be released into the scientific community through the peer review process. We're going to try and do one for Nature, because Nature have their own set of unique rules for how they present the information. So we're going to use Nature as one option, and then any others that we can get them into as a result of it, for all of the tests that we're doing for the next 12 months. Because, like I say, there's no point in doing these experiments if we're not going to release them for peer review critique, because that is the benchmark. That is what science expects you to do. And the overall overriding objective is to do exactly that. We need to get this sorted so that it is published in peer review papers. And if we can get them into peer review papers, it'll create discussion. It'll rustle a little bit of feathers. And hopefully it'll just put us on the map. And that's the idea, the goal. We're trying to create discussion because we realize there are science experiments out there, there are science tests out there, there are science observations that we can perform, and we can test previous science, and it doesn't have to cost the earth. And that's the idea. The hardest part is putting it all together and making it into something that's readable when it was practical in nature. But that is the goal. So everything will be peer reviewed. And obviously the papers that are being peer reviewed will end up being on the website too. So just be aware that the overall overriding objective for everything that we discuss and partake in the next 12 months is to get them peer reviewed into the scientific community, because we want feedback. We want to know what people think. We want to know what the criticisms are. We want to know, we just want to create the discussion, because the conversation is there to be had. Advanced members will be able to view all projects live when they occur. So make sure you check your subscriptions when you're watching these live projects. It's the advanced members that get to see it. So make sure you check all your subscriptions to make sure that you are actually an advanced member. There's going to be questions and answers at the next live stream, because this one is the first one of its kind. And we've not had a chance to dry run this, so it's very much a hope this works and see what happens. Next time it'll be a little bit easier for us to be able to be a little bit more interactive, because hopefully we'll have a bit more dry running time, and we will get some the interactivity bit working, because it's not entirely working like flawlessly yet. But for the next live stream we do, there'll be questions and answers from anybody that's joined in the participants list. To get access to that panel that you need to be in to be able to ask the questions, you need to send an email to learnmore@fecore.org. I'll give that again in a sec. And the idea is you get a link. We'll send you back a link just before the show starts, and then you insert the link into your browser, and it'll take you there. And then you'll be in the background, and you'll be able to listen. And you can put your hand up, you can type your question, and we can respond to it. And we can have a much more interactive back and forth on the next live stream. But for the moment, this is just a literal. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. And just to let you guys know really what's happening for the next one. It is going to be very interactive. There will be questions and answers. And hopefully we'll have the any preliminary issues that we have with regards to technology all lined out, and everything will all be working. Karen, is there anything that you want to add?